Welcome to Feel Good Fridays here on the NECAT Network, where we discuss people and things that make us feel good right here in Nashville. I'm your host, Cameron McCaslin, coming at you live from the NECAT studios here in Nashville, Tennessee. Joining me today, via remote, is NECAT Board Chair and my co-host, Jonalyn Brandmeier. Welcome to the show. So today on Feel Good Friday, our guest is John Wark, founder and CEO of the Nashville Software School, who prepares adults with aptitude, motivation, and drive for careers in software development, UI and UX design, data analytics, and data science. Welcome to the show, John.
Hey, good afternoon, Cameron, Jonalyn. It's great to be here.
Jonalyn, do you want to get us started today?
Sure. We're glad to have you, John. Just kind of talk to us a little bit about the Nashville Software School. So Feel Good Fridays airs on our networks, and it's really about educating our community and the people around and in Nashville of something they may not have heard about before. So give us an intro to what Nashville Software School is.
All right. Absolutely. So Nashville Software School is a vocational school that targets helping adults who are outside of the tech world transition into careers in technology. So that may be as a software developer, a data analyst, a data scientist, somebody doing website design. But we sort of fill a gap, if you will, we think, in the education space, in that we provide an alternative pathway into tech careers for people who maybe didn't take advantage of that when they were in college, or never got introduced to it, in high school, or pursue some other career path, and they find themselves after 10 or 15 years in another career, sort of looking for another way to grow, looking for an alternative career. But we're here to help fill the the emergent need for tech tech talent in Nashville. We're nonprofit. We're 10 years old this year, so we go back to 2012, back when not too many people thought about Nashville as a tech hub back then. So we've been lucky enough to be right place, right time, as Nashville's become such a such an emergent tech hub here in the United States. But we've graduated, I think as of today, I think it's 1,776, which is a very patriotic number, total graduates from all of our programs. And we'll hit 2,000 graduates this year. So adults from 18 to 60, although I'd say the sweet spot's kind of in that early 20s to mid to late 30s range of people who are either seeking a career in tech or looking to switch careers into tech. And part of our nonprofit mission is to open up these pathways for people who come from economically disadvantaged backgrounds, that may be financially fragile, underemployed, unemployed, and also to open up doors to these career pathways to people who are in groups that are underrepresented in tech careers. A lot of tech career fields, pretty dominated by white males and South Asian males. And at a time when our tech talent demand is growing explosively, it's crazy not to tap into kind of all the latent potential that's in other groups that have historically not maybe pursued tech careers quite as much. So women, blacks, Hispanics, our refugee and immigrant communities, which have become huge over the last 20 years here in the Nashville area. So, and part of the way we do that is about half of our students come through NSS on what we call opportunity tuition, where basically we share the risk with our students. They pay a deposit on the full tuition, they get a scholarship for part of their tuition, and then the rest of the tuition doesn't have to be paid until they graduate from our program and get that first job in tech. And if those two things don't happen, they don't owe us a penny. So we really are carrying the financial risk for that training until they get into a career. So, that's kind of an essential core, and has been since, day one of our nonprofit mission, is we put our own assets at risk. That was harder to say than I thought it was going to be. Assets at risk, to help people make this transition. That's probably a little bit more than the nickel overview. Yeah.
No, that's not great. About that with the opportunity scholarship, or tell us, how many students take advantage of that? What's your makeup? Because that's a unique aspect, I imagine, of the Nashville Software School.
Yeah, that was one of the things. In fact, a couple of years after we started, there was actually a columnist in the Washington Post said it was one of the most innovative things that they had seen recently in kind of trying to open up ways to lower barriers to these sort of tech careers. So last year, 45% of our students. So let's see, we graduated 414. Sort of somewhere in the neighborhood.
Half.
Yeah, almost half of our students. It fluctuates a little bit, but it's always in that sort of mid 40s range. That's about what we can afford today out of the number of students we have. So and we also, we help another 10 or 15% with partial scholarships where we can't do the full opportunity tuition plan. So somewhere in the high 50s, I think last year was 58% maybe, of our students either got the full, opportunity tuition, that was 45%, and somewhere in the neighborhood of 14, 15% got at least a partial scholarship. And then we have one program that we partner with the Greater Nashville Tech Council and with Volunteer State and Nashville State, that's funded by one of the state give grants, where the students that go through that program in sort of systems administration, IT infrastructure management, their tuition's 100% paid for by the give grant. So, we work a number of different ways to try to remove the financial barriers to doing this as much as we can.
John, and I imagine that's unique for you, but also a great way for someone who is an adult who's thinking about that second career, or, hey, I've always wanted to do this and didn't have an opportunity, and here's a way to do that. So that's great.
Yeah, it really helps lower those barriers. It reduces risk, right? It doesn't eliminate it. We haven't figured out a good way to eliminate it, but it is a big help.
John, if you had an adult learner who was thinking about coming back and getting just a career change, could you kind of give them an overview of maybe what their first day would look like? Because I think a lot of it is just there's people that are scared to jump in because they don't know what it's going to be. Can you kind of just walk us through how to get started and what that first day of education looks like?
Well, yeah. First thing I'd say is there's a lot of potential steps before the first day in one of our boot camps, right? We've actually created over the last 10 years, we've created some ways to sort of help people decide whether this is going to be the right path for them, right? Because that's always one of the big questions, right? It's like, well, I don't know, is being a software developer the right thing for me to do, right? Am I going to enjoy this? Is this going to be any better than the career I'm leaving? So we actually have some sort of on-ramps that are designed to help people decide, do I enjoy doing this? So we have something we call our Jumpstart classes, which are short, part-time, they're 9 class sessions. We have one in software, we have one in web development, one in software engineering, one in data analytics, where people actually get hands-on with the tools with instructors. In the web development Jumpstart, they actually build their first website using some of the standard languages for building these things. So they actually get a chance to get hands-on with instructors so they can sort of test drive things. So, and that's to help them both prepare for the first day of a boot camp, but really even decide if they want to commit themselves to, boot camps, because our boot camps are, the web development boot camp is 6 months full time. They're with us 9 to 4, 5 days a week for 6 months. The new software engineering boot camp that we're doing in collaboration with Amazon is actually 9-month full time. Some of these programs, we also have part-time versions so people can keep their day job and come at night. So, but web development part-time, is 12 months part-time instead of 6 months full-time. So these are, significant commitments. So we, between information sessions, jumpstart programs, we're trying to lower the barriers. The other thing I'd say about sort of the first day in the real boot camp is sort of like our jumpstarts. The thing they can expect is to do a lot of hands-on learning, right? You can't learn to be a software developer by reading about it or by having somebody lecture you, right? We use the analogy all the time, actually, of learning to master a musical instrument. How do you master a musical instrument? It seems like a good Nashville analogy, right? Also, we get lots of people with music backgrounds. It is actually the single best predictor of aptitude for software development. For people who have never done it, if you've mastered a musical instrument, if you've been a professional musician, you almost certainly have the ability to be a software developer, something like that. We've learned over the years that that's a very powerful predictor of success. So, how do you master a musical instrument? You got to pick it up and play it, right? You can't get lectured into being a master guitar player or oboe player. We've had those. We've had bassoonists. We've had tuba players. We've had guitar players, and yeah. We've had violinists from the symphony when COVID hit and they needed a new career, right? So, and we've had school teachers, we've had small engine mechanics. Our students have all kinds of backgrounds, but when they come to us, they're going to learn a lot hands-on, and our instructors are there. Yes, we demonstrate things, we explain things, but we're also there to facilitate getting hands-on, making mistakes, and being okay with that, right? You can't learn to be a good musician without making a lot of mistakes and just getting used to getting better by fixing your own mistakes. Learning a lot of these technical crafts, if you will, is a very similar learning process. And so that's what I'd tell people to expect, is to expect to be immersed, lots of repetition, lots of practice, and lots of increasing complexity. As you learn more and more skills, we're going to be able to get you deeper and deeper into it. And then the last thing I tell them to expect to do a lot of work with other people, because professional software developers, for example, web developers, data analysts, we do most of our work in teams with other people. There's a very real social dimension to this, right? I think if you look at the movies, right, you think developers work in dark basements by themselves with glowing screens with code dripping down them, that's really not the way it works mostly. A lot of us have somebody locked in the basement like that, but most people, it's a team environment. It's really a team sport. And so we also have to learn the skills of how to do that in a team, how to give each other feedback, all of those things. And that's an essential part of the learning NSS as well. And that's one of the things that the employers tell us is so important to them, is that we get people ready to be, to go on the job, not just from sort of learning the technical tools and the technical skills, but also from the perspective of being able to come into an organization and work with other people, which is, we all need those chops, and we give people a chance to practice that. So,
John, can I follow up on that real quick? So,
sure.
You were talking about all the different people that you meet, but I think one of the things that's interesting is all the different industries that tech works into. Back in the day, it used to be that tech was one of those things where, you felt like it was, you were going to work in a computer lab with a bunch of other people, computer nerds, you know, but now it's like it hits the medical industry, it hits the music industry, it hits the video game industry, just about anything. I mean, a lot of people's refrigerators have a computer on it at the, you know, at this point in time. So now that tech has got so far and wide as far as like in our everyday lives, what are the types of places that people are going to work after they finish at your school?
Great question, because software's become embedded in everything else we do, right? And that's one of the great things about this is it doesn't matter what other interests our students have, whether it's professionally or as a hobby or whatever. There's software in there, and they can take the skills they learn at NSS into both their hobbies and into a profession they might find interesting. So ours, you know, we've got over 400 employers here in sort of Middle Tennessee that have hired our students, and they're basically pretty much the IT departments of almost every medium to large organization you can think of. So HCA, so healthcare, which of course is Nashville's largest single industry. Our students go into healthcare from the largest players like an HCA and all the parts of HCA, you know, Sarah Cannon Research and, you know, Health Trust and whatever. The Ingram company, so Ingram Content Group, Ingram Marine, state government, the Tennessee Department of Transportation, the Comptroller's Office, Secretary of State, you know, insurance companies, Alliance Bernstein, you know, other people in finance, but also consultancies. So everything from international, Capgemini, Accenture, to, you know, some of the great local and regional, you know, software consultancies. We've got, you know, 40AU and Atiba and InfoWorks, all of the, you know, these kinds of companies. And then, you know, tech companies from Amazon to, you know, our fastest growing local startups like, you know, Built Technologies and all of the companies who've opened development labs here from the West Coast and East Coast, and you know, but our local homegrown guys as well. So, you know, pretty much every industry you could think of, and all sizes of organizations. So there's really a fit out there for everybody, right? You know, some people want the stability of a large company in a you know, a fairly stable industry. Other people, you know, they want the idea of working for a startup, right, and changing the world somehow, or at least having a shot at it. So, you know, so there's alternatives here. And, you know, the other thing that's opened up the last 2 years with COVID is over 90% of our graduates, we surveyed 3 months ago, probably, our grads from the prior few months. And over 90% of them were being hired to work remote. Now, they might be working remote for a Nashville company, but they don't have to go, you know, they're not going into the office every day. But what that means is it's also opening up the possibilities for working remote for East Coast big tech companies, West Coast tech companies, you know, companies anywhere, but still being able to stay in Nashville, right? And conversely, what we're seeing, since we now teach everything we do online. We used to be all in person. That changed about this time 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm. That was going to be one of my questions: is how did you transition during the pandemic? So you went remote. Are you going to stay remote?
We're going to. Or are you going to do a hybrid? We're going to stay at least partially remote. What we've learned is we can do everything we do in an online synchronous environment like this. You know, we can have a class of students all together. We can have project teams working together on Zoom. And that, in fact, is modeling the work environment that a lot of them are working in now in tech. Because a lot of tech companies, yes, some of them are going to come back in person, or at least part-time in person, but they're still going to have 3 days a week when people are working remote. And some are going to have a lot of their people working remote 100%. So we're actually modeling the work environment they're going to end up in potentially in tech. So yeah, we went all online in about a week, just like everybody else, you know, this time 2 years ago. But we figured out that a lot of things we do for career development it's actually easier to do mock interview events, for example, with employers to prepare our students for their job searches when we don't have to ask employers to come in person to the school to interview students, right? We can just get them on Zoom, which is the way they're interviewing people today. So we've actually figured out that a lot of the things we do, I mean, we all miss the in-person personal connections, right? We all miss seeing people below the shoulders and figuring out, do you really have legs under there? So, we miss that stuff, and we've promised all our students we're going to have some events, and I think we're coming up on some this summer now that hopefully COVID's headed in the right direction, to be back in person. But we will restart doing some mix of in-person classes. But, we've been kind of continuously surveying students, and we found a lot of them really like this remote environment. The part-time students, they like not having to come to NSS after they commuted to work during the day, right? And being able to just go home and do this from home, or since they're working from home anyways, just staying there. So, it's also opened up our ability to bring students in from all over Tennessee. We get a lot more students from rural areas than we used to, or who come from, sort of in particular states kind of adjacent to Tennessee, but where they've got family members in Nashville who've told them about NSS, the word of mouth thing. And we're getting, people from Huntsville and the Carolinas and whatever who are kind of like, well, I'd like to get part of that tech scene in Nashville, but I can stay where I am and do the training remote, and then NSS can help me get connected with employers in Nashville. So that's kind of new for us too. So, it's expanded our ability to tap into talent that wants to be connected with the Nashville tech scene, which it's been one of the fun changes over the last couple of years.
John, where do you see?
If someone was interested in pursuing a tech career or learning more about Nashville Software School, what's your website? Where would they go?
They would go to NashvilleSoftwareSchool.com. That's a good reminder. I should remember to do that more often. Yeah, NashvilleSoftwareSchool.com is our website, and all of our programs are described there. All of the financing options are described there. We've got student stories. You can check us out on social media as well. We share a lot of our student stories, our grad spotlights and things on social media. So you can find us on Facebook, where it's Nashville Software School, Facebook and Instagram, it's Nashville Software School. Twitter, it's Nash Software, so at Nash Software. LinkedIn, it's Nashville-Software-School. So we're on the socials, and you can also, again, come to the website at NashvilleSoftwareSchool.com, which is also where you'd come if you have questions for us. If you want to know more about these kinds of things, you can find information about our monthly information sessions, which you may want to attend. You can fire us off questions, through the contact form. So you'll also find our community impact report for the last year, which showed our growth, showed the number of students getting opportunity tuition, showed that 58% of our students that graduated last year are from underrepresented groups. So we're literally moving the needle on diversity in Nashville's tech community every time we graduate a class. That's something we haven't talked about as much, but that's another thing really central to our mission. So,
John, that is fantastic. So we're getting close to the end to the show at this point, but before we go, we want to make sure we give you an opportunity to tell us one thing that you're feeling good about on this Friday afternoon.
Well, on any Friday afternoon, particularly one where it's getting to be spring and there's actually, all of that. I'm always glad when it's getting near cocktail time on a Friday afternoon. But besides that, one of the things that I'm jazzed about is, one, just how fast that the tech economy here is exploding. I mean, this is what I've done for a 50-year career, and seeing Nashville become part of the national conversation about technology is cool. But also seeing our community start really focusing on how do we make sure we don't leave Nashvillians behind in this burgeoning tech economy? How do we open doors? You know, it's not just us out there doing this kind of work. The employers are working on this. There's a lot of community activists. So I'm really happy about this conversation that we're having a lot more of the last year or two about how important these opportunities are for good careers going into the future, and how do we make sure more Nashvillians get access to these opportunities, right? You know, we love being part of that conversation, but it's great to see the community more broadly getting more engaged with this, because you know it's really going to be important in establishing what Nashville becomes over the next 20 or 30 years, and making sure that, you know, as our kids come up through schools, as a lot of us need to repot careers, you know, that we have good ways to do it into really, you know, great career opportunities, well-paying, lots of future. You know, it's you know, this growth has sparked some conversations that I think are healthy for us all to be having.
So, Shauna Lynn, can you tell me what you're feeling good about this Friday afternoon?
I would agree that I am feeling good about spring is almost here. So I like to garden and I love to watch all of the plants come back out. So I would say I'm looking forward to that. So that's always a good feel good. And then also with everything going on in the news, I just love that people are helping people. It's wonderful to see. There's a lot of bad things going on in the world, but there's a lot of good people in the world as well. So that's always a good feel good Friday. How about you, Cameron?
You know, kind of, I'll echo what we've been talking about today. Here at NECAT, we've been doing some major installation on some new tech in this space. And so just talking about how the world moves with technology, we're moving over here, and it's exciting to see that happen. So with that,
yes, we are very thankful for all of our new technology.
Yeah, for sure. That's about all the time we have for today's show. Once again, we want to thank my co-host and our guests for coming here on Feel Good Friday. We hope it keeps you feeling good all weekend. Until next time, I'm Cameron McCaslin from the NECAT Studios. Have a great Feel Good Friday.